morning. This is Anna Patterson with the North Carolina Housing Coalition. Thanks for joining us this morning for our housing call. At this time, I will turn it over to our Director of Housing Policy, Stephanie Watkins-Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are having a great week so far. Going ahead and going to kick it off with organizational updates. Just a reminder that nominations for the 2026 North Carolina Housing Coalition Awards are now open. Each year at the North Carolina Affordable Housing Conference Breakfast, we recognize organizations and individuals who have gone above and beyond the call of duty to advocate for affordable housing. If you or someone you know has excelled in housing advocacy over the last year, submit a nomination by September 18th. You can also register now for the North Carolina Affordable Housing Conference and get the early bird rate until September 24th at 5 p.m. The conference will be held at the Raleigh Convention Center on October 22nd through the 23rd, so don't miss out on this early bird rate. Moving right along to federal updates. On August 7th, a federal court ordered the Department of Housing and Urban Administration Urban Development, to fully vacate the issuance of the 2026 Continuum of Care, COC, Notice of Funding Opportunity. So more than $4 billion in funding awarded to local communities to address solutions to homelessness. Proposed changes to the 2026 program would have dramatically shifted funding away from permanent housing and would have put almost 100,000 people at risk of losing their housing. This is now the third time during President Trump's current term that a federal court has ruled the HUD changes to the COC program have violated federal law. And as expected, HUD is appealing the ruling. Another update is that the payment standard for COVID era policy has changed. So the payment standard that was used for emergency housing vouchers and stability vouchers, it was under a particular rule that started during the COVID era. And so the new guidance that HUD released last week actually rescinds this COVID era policy that allowed public housing authorities to issue emergency housing vouchers and stability vouchers for up to 120% of the fair market rent without HUD approval. This change, however, is only for new leases, so it won't impact current emergency housing vouchers and stability vouchers recipients in the remaining in their units. Another reminder on the federal side that the Congress, members of Congress are home. So this is an advocacy opportunity during August recess. They'll be home for the next several weeks. The House is scheduled to return on August 31st, and the Senate is scheduled to return around September 14th. And as we've already mentioned over the last several weeks, this is a great time of year to schedule in-district meetings with your members of Congress. I already saw an event with Congresswoman Ross happened in Raleigh. I believe last week or the week before. And so there are a lot of events and opportunities to engage with your members. We're going to include a toolkit from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. They have an August recess advocacy toolkit. And it will show you different ideas, whether it's email, letters, or suggestions on how to make the most of the visit and the meeting. And ultimately, wanting to make sure that they see the great work that everyone is doing and emphasize the need for them to expand and not cut federal investments in affordable housing, community development, and homelessness assistance programs. We also want to remind folks, as we mentioned on last week's call, on August 10th, HUD issued a supplemental notice of proposed rulemaking that would eliminate the agency's longstanding disparate impact regulations that implement Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin toward recipients of federal financial assistance, including federally assisted housing. So if disparate impact regulations were eliminated, housing policies that disproportionately harm protected groups would actually be more difficult to prove in court than they already are. Public comments on this proposal are due by October 9th. You please feel free to use the National Council of Nonprofits tool to email your members of Congress and urge them to block the implementation of this proposed rule. It's absolutely terrible. Moving on to state updates. They are also on a break, but just some news out of North Carolina's District 11. A committee of Western North Carolina Republicans selected Jennifer Balcom to replace Western Carolina Representative Chuck Edwards as the Republican candidate for the District 11 election. So Balcom will face Democratic candidate Jamie Ager in the November election. On the disaster recovery front, Cameron Hamilton was sworn in on August 10th as the first permanent administrator of FEMA during the Trump administration's second term. Hamilton previously led FEMA in a temporary capacity from January to May 2025 when he was fired after opposing the elimination of FEMA. This Friday, the Governor's Advisory Committee on Western North Carolina Recovery will be meeting virtually from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's this Friday, August 21st. The agenda and the registration link for this meeting will be in the call notes. There will not be an opportunity for public comment, but questions and feedback can be shared if you email wncrecovery@nc.gov. And again, all that information will be in the call notes for you. We have several local headlines. There's been a lot of interest about the rise in foreclosures around the nation, around the state, and particularly at the state. Looking at our state, there's been a rise in foreclosures in the Charlotte and Mecklenburg area. So we've been getting questions on that, and we've been talking to press about that. So shout out to those reporters for digging a little deeper and talking to different folks about it. Also, want to lift up a report by the National Alliance to End Homelessness that really highlights the faulty logic behind Trump's plans to massively disrupt homeless services, really kind of out exposing the lack of logic behind a lot of the new rhetoric and dangerous language and proposals that are being used to dismantle an already pretty sensitive and under-resourced system. On the events front, there will be a webinar on Thursday, August 27th at 12 p.m. hosted by the Center for Community Progress called Land with a Plan, using design as a strategic tool in land banking. We'll have the registration link in the call notes for you. We also want to lift up an exciting event. Our friends at City Builder, as well as Yes in My Triangle, will be hosting a free training on Thursday, September 10th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the McPherson Residence Inn on Marriott Street in Durham. This is going to be a free training to learn and practice, honestly, how to speak at city council and public meetings and do that type of engagement. So participants will be joined by local leaders and advocates, as well as, and this will be really fun, the Duke University Improv team. This training is free and open to the public, but space is limited, so registration is required. So please register using the link that we'll have in the call notes for you. Or if you already follow City Builder, you will see the notice about that there as well. Another event we want to lift up on October 9th, there will be an affordable housing seminar looking at tools, strategies, and case studies for local government leadership at the School of Government, and this is open to professionals and elected officials. This course costs $245, and there'll be a registration link in the call notes for you as well. And then several months later, there will be the Development Finance Toolbox course as well from December 8th through the 10th, and that will be around $370. That's all we have for you this week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or requests, or if you'd like to hear any particular interviews or deep dives on the call. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.